Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast. Hello, lovely friend. Dr. Mary here. Very excited to be with you today. And I am joined by my fabulous, gorgeous, lovely, blonde colleague, Dr. Lucy. Hello, lovely one. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dr. Mary. I'm really, really good. Had a wonderful week, and again, looking forward to a great cracker of a week this week. So yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Today we're talking about one of my favourite topics, something that I've been doing for years and find so extremely helpful. It's journaling. We're big fans
Indeed.
of the tool, the wonderful tool for change, both mindset change and flow-on physiological change that is the Humble Journal. Lovely Dr. Lucy, you talk about reasons why we like journaling.
Absolutely. So I guess just to, set the scene, we know that for long-lasting weight loss, we need to have strategies that improve our metabolism, which is why, we're always talking about low carb and, we have podcasts on fasting and we talk about strength training and all the things that will improve metabolism. And that's all wonderful. But nothing happens if you don't implement it. And so the implementation process is what we call mindset. And I mean, it's a big topic. It's vast, mindset. It's not just one, here's a recipe for mindset. It's really about using tools that help you implement the things that you want to do, both when life is easy and when the going gets tough. And so coming up with an array of tools for that is the key. And again, we're not a one-trick pony. We often need a lot of different tools for different occasions. And also knowing that as humans, as we keep talking about, we are all different. And so it's about finding a tool or finding a way to use that tool for you. So journaling is a way of helping you, in some ways, learn to know yourself, which again, I guess flows into our philosophy of, weight loss is more than a meal plan. It really is a journey of self-discovery. And that self-discovery can actually be fun. It doesn't have to be hard or tedious. It can be really interesting and fun, and learning to know how you tick is really like it's that whole concept of self-awareness.
That's freeing. And the really beautiful thing about, weight loss being a self-discovery journey is that we can very, very literally change our brains. Just because we have been stuck in unhelpful thought patterns, unhelpful emotional patterns, unhelpful habits, doesn't mean we need to stay there. Our brains can change, and you can rewire your brain by changing your thoughts, by reframing your thoughts, by helping challenge your negative emotions and move your thoughts and feelings into more helpful directions through this beautiful process of neuroplasticity. London cab drivers have got bigger parts of their brain that correspond to spatial awareness than most people. Violin players have got larger parts of their brain, the cortex that controls their fingers, particularly on the side of their brain that is where they do the violin fingering. And we can also change our brain and remodel. We can strengthen the connections between the neurons that form our helpful thoughts, and we can weaken and let go of the neurons and those connections that keep us in unhelpful thought patterns. So neuroplasticity is your friend and ally, and journaling is a really helpful tool to empower that beautiful neuroplasticity.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at its heart, a thought is just a connection between two nerve cells in your brain. Like it. So two nerve cells have connected. If they connect a lot, then that connection's quite deep. And if they've just connected, then the connection is quite fine. And so I'll often refer to them as, the first thought you've ever had. If you first hear something, you first think it. It's like this little fine bit of just gossamer, really, really delicate thread. If you've thought that thought a lot, it's gone back up and down, back up and down, back up and down. It's like tensile steel. It's quite strong. It's easy. It's just there. You just, it becomes a more permanent fixture. But just because it's permanent doesn't mean it's helpful. And so what we want to do is spend some time cultivating, because again, we're the boss of us. We can choose what thoughts we want. We can choose the way we want to think. We can choose how we want to behave. But it takes some practice, because imagining you've got this first thought, and, the first thought might be, your first thought might be, I can't do it, because maybe that's what you've always thought. But what if the first thought becomes, what if I could do it? And so you've got this little bit of gossamer there of, what if I could do it? And it's just fine, like a bit of, fairy floss. And then you keep saying, but what if I could do it? What if I could do it? And then that just becomes, I could do it. And then that becomes your tensile steel. That becomes your default for just about everything. I could do that. Which is,
it comes to the point where I do that. It's part of your identity.
Yeah.
It gets so strong. I do that. That is me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have this happening all the time in ways that can either be helpful to us or unhelpful to us. And that's what we want to do, is we get to choose, so we can cultivate the helpful one. And by cultivating, I mean, it takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. We'd all love it to happen overnight. Wouldn't you love to happen overnight, where you can just wake up with all the positive thoughts, the mindset that is going to help you for the rest of your life? But, we're a bit more complicated than that. But it's practice. As you mentioned, the violin player doesn't develop. The violin player's brain in the violin playing section is big because they've practiced it. It's not the other way around. It's not big, and so therefore they're a good violin player. It's the other way around. The behavior changes the brain. And then, again, the identity is, and again, I've just invented a violin player. If you're a professional violin player, as part of your identity is that you need to practice. And, I don't know what they practice, maybe 2 hours a day, probably more. But that's your identity, so that's what you do. Because you're a violin player, you practice. If your brain says, I can't play the violin, well, you're not going to practice, because you've already decided you can't play it.
Yes, we have so much control over our destiny and control over particularly our health and the healthful choices we make, because we own everything that happens inside our heads. It is all ours. Nobody else owns it. And you get to decide how you respond to situations. You get to decide how you frame your thoughts about situations. You can change the way that you respond to situations. You get to decide. It's all you. And a beautiful tool in helping you develop these skills, to help you develop the skills to reframe your thoughts, to challenge your unhelpful thoughts, to encourage the more helpful thoughts, to change the way you think about yourself, to change your self-talk, to increase your self-kindness, your self-compassion, to improve your motivation. A great tool is the humble old journal.
Absolutely. And I mean, from an anatomical level, it makes sense, because when you write, you have to have a thought. And then what you do, that thought then goes, so that's the connection between two nerves, that thought then goes in via your, essentially, down your arm into your hand, so via your motor cortex, so that you can write out that thought. And then most of us will read what we've written. So it then goes back into your brain via, the optic section at the back of your brain. So it's reinforced in multiple ways. I mean, it makes so much sense, doesn't it?
It does. So we use journaling a lot as a tool in our Momentum membership with our beautiful, beautiful members in our Hottie Club. We call them healthy on the inside. It's gorgeous women in our Hottie Club. We use journaling a lot. And I'm an avid journaler. Lucy, you like journaling. Perhaps we could just it's a big topic. Journaling's a huge topic. Like, you could take this podcast anywhere. We could talk about this for 10 days if we wanted to. But let's keep it to 3. Like, what would be our top 3 or 3 fabulous ways that we like to use journaling? You can go first, gorgeous one.
Absolutely. So I guess the first step is, and this can sometimes be the barrier for people, is the journal. Like, yes. What is the journal? So some people don't want to write anything down, again, for fear that maybe somebody will read it one day, which is fair enough. So for me, I don't have a fancy journal. I have a piece of paper and it'll be whatever I find. Other people will find that they don't want to ruin the journal. So the perfectionism stops them starting because, what if it's not right? And other people love, like you, Mez, I think you love a fancy journal.
Not in a perfectionistic way at all. But yes, I love a nice journal. The paper is nice and it feels good and I get drawn to it. I do. But
yeah,
I know people who just like to write on a scrapbook from the supermarket and then they do literally like to burn it after they've written it. Like, there is no, wherever you're at, embrace wherever you're at. It doesn't need to be perfect. It can't be perfect. And you can have a super fancy journal with, fountain ink pens, if that is your thing. You could have an exercise book from the supermarket, or you could have a scrap piece of paper that you destroy afterwards. Scrap pieces of paper that you don't destroy afterwards. Just anything. Pen, paper, pencil, paper. Yeah. That's what
pen, paper. Absolutely. And I know some people use electronic journals these days with technology, but I still think there is something in our brain that about the writing. So if you have the ability to write, again, not everyone does for various reasons, but if you have the ability to write, personally, I think that is the way to get the maximal effect. But the other thing also that stops people starting is that they think they have to do it every day. And you don't. You're the boss of you. You can do it whenever you want. If you only want to do it once a month, do that. If you only want to do it once a year, do that. Something is better than nothing. You may find that you start to enjoy it and you get into the habit of cultivating a daily practice. But again, don't let that stop you start.
Yes.
How's that for a sentence? Don't let that stop you start. I think I might have to.
Yeah.
So that's just, I think, some parameters to start off with. And then what we'll do is maybe, three types, I guess, of things you might want to write about or consider journaling about. Mez, you go first.
So I've got a regular journaling practice, and I also use journaling in times of more sort of heated crisis when I'm got some emotional suffering. I will then sort of turn to journaling ad hoc in those as well. So for a regular journaling practice, and you don't have to do this regularly if you don't want to, a really lovely, lovely way to use the journal is this journal prompt: 3 wins, 3 daily wins or weekly wins, or just 3 wins. Whereas what you do is, any time of day that suits you, think about that day or the day before and write down 3 things that you did well or 3 things that went well. It's like gratitude, but it's not quite the same. I'm not saying the things that you have to be grateful for. You're just writing down things that you did well. 3 wins. And this is a beautiful and I think extremely important nuance here, that you can even journal about your potential failings or things that didn't go so well as a win if you can find the learning point. So you can say, 3 good things that I did today. I had a lovely breakfast with my family. That was lovely. I went for that walk, which was great. I meant to do a 24-hour fast, but I didn't. I was helping out at the school canteen and I ate 6 donuts. And now I have learnt from this with compassion and kindness that perhaps for me personally, fasting on the days where there's all this processed food around isn't super helpful for me. And so this is a fictional event, but I have taken the failing, the perceived failing, the thing that might be full of really unpleasant thoughts that, my inner critic could be screaming at me for being such a loser, such a failure, for doing this thing, but viewing it with compassion, viewing it with kindness, I look for the learning. And so with the 3 daily wins, you either win or you learn, and learning is winning. You can't fail. It's a beautiful thing to do each day.
I love that. I love that. And as you said, in the the learning from your failures, inverted commas, you've embraced the SLC framework that we spend a lot of time teaching, which is really that self-reflection, learning, and you do it with compassion. Because for so many people, when they make what they perceive to be a mistake, rather than learning from it, we just pretend it didn't happen. And you see it again. Facebook groups are great for this. Oh, don't worry about it. Tomorrow's another day. And it's like, I get that. It is that is helpful, but it's a superficial helpful level, because what we want to do is go, okay, yeah, I really don't want to keep doing that. What do I do differently? How can I learn from it? What were my triggers? What situation led me to this? Like, that's the sort of thing that we teach in that self-reflection. It's interesting. So I was having a little run of the 3 wins. And again, this is why it doesn't have to be perfect. I had a run, like I was doing it for a while. And as part of that, this was way back. This was a long time ago, when I used to, as a GP, go and visit nursing homes. I remember being particularly cross one night. I was tired. It was the end of the day. I had to go visit this nursing home, and I was stomping in. And it must have been summertime because it was still light. And I go in to this room to see this, lovely old lady in her bed. And I mean, it was a very nice aged care facility, and it had this beautiful big floor-to-ceiling window, and she had a little garden outside her window. And as I look out, there's these 3 birdies just fluffing around in the little bird bath that was there, and they were having such a lovely time, and they were beautiful. They were these coloured birds, and they were so glorious. And I just remember thinking, oh, I'm going to put that in my 3 things for the day. But if I wasn't sort of always searching for the 3 things to put in, I could well have just missed this and still been stuck in my, Dr. Huffalot, being a bit annoyed that I had to go at the end of the day. And so it helped me get out of that funk and be able to change my lens. So the lens that I was initially looking through was the, oh, poor me, I'm tired, it's the end of the day, I can't believe I have to do this, this is so hard, rah, 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 to the, oh, look at that fun thing. Wow, I wouldn't have seen that sort of tiny bit of nature. I wouldn't have seen it if I didn't have to come to this aged care facility. So I went, you never know what you're going to see. You never know what's going to happen, even though something feels like it's annoying at the start.
I love that, because that little moment of happiness, that little moment of positivity that you had is healthy. So that, in a very, very literal sense, helps improve your physical health, helps improve your heart health, your brain health, your immune system, your metabolic health, all of these beautiful flow-on effects, apart from the fact that it also just makes your life better, is literally good for your physical health. And you were looking for the good things because you journaled about good things. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. There's a, concept which, all of you will know about, resilience. Resilience is our ability to kind of weather the storm, so to speak. And we can improve resilience. And there's a phrase called savoring. And what it is savoring the good times. So we're pretty good as humans at focusing on when things go wrong and ruminating on that and picking every bit apart. And then the good times we go, oh, that was fun, move on. And by journaling about the good things, which is your 3 wins prompt, it is, again, it's part of that savoring and strengthening that cognitive bias to be looking for the positives, because our natural bias for lots of us, some more than others, but is to always be looking for the negative. Again, part of our defense mechanism. It's, had served a purpose at one stage. So yeah, I love that.
Lovely. So we've got the 3 wins. We've got the SLC framework that is really, really helpful for journaling. And I guess a third one would be good old simple reframe. I find this particularly helpful in moments of distress. So if I've got a big emotional storm building up, if I'm feeling really horrible about something, maybe even if I've got significant cravings, this can be really helpful. And reframing your thoughts. It gets better with practice, but this is where you just get pen and paper. You write down what your thoughts are. Just what is the negative, swirling, spicy thoughts that are going through your brain. Write them out, just get them out. Even that in itself can be so helpful to reduce their intensity. And then after you've done that, give them a bit of a poke. Evidence test your thoughts, write down, is this logical? Is this the only way of viewing this particular circumstance? Write down other ways in which you could view this circumstance. Write down ways that are perhaps more helpful. And practicing your reframing through a journal can be a beautiful way to get out of the unhelpful thought pattern into a more helpful thought pattern quite quickly.
Absolutely. One of our favorite prompts, what is the most useful thing I can think here? What is the most useful belief? What is my most useful thought here? You may go, well, I don't think that though, but that's okay, because remember, thought is just a connection. You can think whatever you want, and you can cultivate whatever you want, and that can become over time your dominant paradigm, your automatic paradigm, rather than your previous automatic thought process that may not be that helpful to you. Yeah, I totally love this. One of the things that I do is what I call angry journaling. So again, it's like a thought dump. And you can use this in a number of ways. So you can use it if you're upset, and anger can be multiple. It's an umbrella term for lots of emotions. It can be you are angry. It can be irritable. You can feel rejected. You can feel hurt. You can feel lonely. Any of those. You can journal about that and just get it out. And for me, it's so helpful to get right to the very core, because usually, particularly anger, comes down right at the very heart of it is to being hurt. And so then acknowledging that you're hurt and that you need to give yourself time to repair from that hurt, or find something that will soothe you from that hurt. But you can also sometimes use thought dumping, particularly if you're not a good sleeper or you wake up and you think all the time, you've got one of those really active brains. Dumping it down on paper or organising it into a journal, depending on how your brain works, can be really reassuring for your brain, because for a lot of people, their brain continually holds this information, like important things, because it doesn't want you to forget. So it's constantly there. It's like it's in the front of your mind all the time, blah, blah, blah. If it's written down, you can actually say to it, it's all right, brain, we've written it down. We're not going to forget. It's okay. You can stand down. Let's rest. And it'll go, oh, okay, thank you. So, yeah, so many useful things that you can do. I mean, the great thing about journaling, it's free. All you need is a pen and some paper. So maybe it'll cost you $2. It's not expensive. A tool that is so useful, that takes up very little time. The rewards are so immense. Like it's almost a no-brainer.
That's it. So Go off and imperfectly journal. Beautiful people. Your brain and body will definitely thank you.
Indeed, indeed. All right, gorgeous ones. See you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualised medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.